The Toronto Blue Jays could win it all this Friday night. Can the team capture their first World Series title in 3 decades?
I have friends and family on the West Coast getting so excited about it.
As millions of fans across the country rally to the cause. And the U.S. President's latest comments on the trade talk turmoil. His claims the Prime Minister apologized for Ontario's ad.
What they did was wrong, but he apologized.
Plus, the Prime Minister meets the Chinese president. How Canada is looking to reset relations with the economic superpower.
Global National, reporting tonight from Toronto, Jeff Semple.
We are going to wrap it up tonight. Gosman's going to throw strikes.
We're going to rock this. We're going to win it.
The excitement in Toronto is reaching a fever pitch as the city's beloved Blue Jays take the field tonight with a chance to win the World Series. Good evening, and thank you for joining us here outside the Rogers Centre. It has been 32 years since the Blue Jays won their last title, and many of the fans gathering here tonight weren't even alive back then. This is a special moment for the city and the country at a time when many Canadians could use a reason to celebrate. But of course, there's still plenty of baseball left to play, and victory is far from assured. The LA Dodgers are starting their ace pitcher tonight, who shut down the Jays back in Game 2. Eric Sorensen has been following the Jays throughout these playoffs and begins our coverage tonight. Eric.
Jeff, who would have thought this was possible? Think back, 2 months into this baseball season, the Blue Jays were in 10th place in the American League, but they found some kind of magic, and look where we are today. Game 6 of the World Series, and they can win it all tonight.
It looks like an everyday pregame warm-up, but you know the butterflies are there. The awareness that in a few hours on this very field, this could happen. 32 years ago, after Joe Carter's home run, the Blue Jays streamed onto the field with their second World Series title, both won in 6 games. That team also had something special.
I'm so happy for all these guys on the team.
Cito Gaston remembers the chemistry, and he sees the same thing in the 2025 Blue Jays.
They never quit. They just keep coming at you. And they all seem to be friends. You know, once in a lifetime that you find that kind of chemistry with all the players on the team. We're lucky enough to get it 2 years in a row.
Big names like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Max Scherzer are playing like stars. But so are Nathan Lucas, who spent years in the minors, Addison Barger, who was in AAA to start the season. Ernie Clement has become one of the best contact hitters. And of course, Trey Yesavage, who came out of nowhere with a pitching performance for the ages 2 nights ago. Chris Bassett was a starter, then moved to the bullpen, and he's fine with that.
Let's just go win. It don't really matter who does what. I don't care about your stats. Let's go win.
Tonight's starting pitcher, Kevin Gausman, knows that established and emerging talent have come together in Toronto.
The first word that comes to mind is respect. You know, I think we all have a level of respect for each other and what each guy has been through to get to the point where we're at now.
Tonight, Gausman faces the Dodgers ace, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who won Game 2, a rematch of top pitchers.
You know, you kind of think of it as like an old school pitcher's duel about to happen, you know, but you never know how it's going to unfold. But we've got all the confidence in the world in Kev. He's kind of been our guy, you know, for the last couple of years.
The manager was asked yesterday about being back home for Game 6.
I'm excited as hell to see what this place is like tomorrow. The guys are too. They're talking about it as well. We can't wait. You know, you kind of want the game to start right now.
Well, tomorrow is here, and who doesn't want the game to start right now? Jeff?
And Eric, you've been covering the Jays since their first playoff run back in the 80s. How does this team compare?
There is a spirit about this team, I find. They are unpretentious as a group of professional athletes. It may start with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's a superstar, but he's also a big kid who loves being out here, and I think that rubs off on everyone. The veterans, the rookies, they like each other, they help each other. Max Scherzer is ornery, but they love having him, and he loves being here. I asked Joe Siddall, the broadcaster, former player, who's with the team all the time, and I said, is it real? And he said, yes, it's real. The vibe about this team is real. And I think that's why millions of Canadians have become fans of this team, because they are fun to watch and easy to like. Jeff?
All right, Eric Sorensen here in Toronto. Thanks, Eric. In addition to the more than 40,000 fans packed inside the Rogers Centre, another 20,000 are attending a watch party just down the street at Scotiabank Arena. Plus thousands more crowding into local bars and the small army of trick-or-treaters going door to door for Halloween. It all adds up to a daunting logistical and security operation for police and city officials. Sean O'Shea is covering that part of the story for us. Sean.
Jeff, police really got into the planning mode for this night once the Blue Jays made it to the World Series, but they point to those Taylor Swift concerts last year as the blueprint for how they'll handle crowds. While the outcome of the World Series game won't be known until it's been played, Canada's biggest city is already planning for victory and a celebration to follow.
Large crowds bring upon the police a certain number of responsibilities, and public safety is obviously number one.
Toronto police will be on the streets in large numbers, from uniformed officers to specialized units, including police on horseback. The aim? Reassure those celebrating in the downtown core and to deter anyone with other ideas.
To celebrate responsibly, in other words, no drones, no fireworks, look out for each other.
Some officers will be donning these modified caps in the spirit of supporting the team.
Police officers are Blue Jays fans. We want it to be a happy, celebratory event that we all look back on with a lot of pride and joy.
Toronto Police will also be bringing in officers from surrounding agencies, including Ontario Provincial Police. Some roads will be closed, similar to what happened during the Taylor Swift concert tour 1 year ago.
So Taylor Swift was a great example. The city was really tested like we haven't been in a long time by the sheer number of people, and we're expecting large numbers of people on the city streets tonight.
Transit really is your best way in.
The Toronto Transit Commission will be watching the game, and if a win is in the works, bus and streetcar service will be discontinued downtown as a precaution.
We'll just stop putting service into the downtown core right before the game is over.
The city's encouraging people to leave cars at home or at least as far away from downtown as possible, anticipating large crowds if the Blue Jays win.
You're going to have, tens of thousands of extra people, all the things, weekend, Halloween, World Series. So that's why it's really important that we have that extra service out.
And here in the square outside Toronto City Hall, people are beginning to show up for a watch party. Thousands expected to watch the game on a large screen here tonight. Jeff?
Sean O'Shea in Toronto. Thanks, Sean. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is also a big Jays fan, and today he published an op-ed in the Washington Post reflecting on the team's success and took the opportunity to pitch Canada as a global heavyweight, both in sport and on the world stage. Ford says Canadians are united despite being tested by U.S. tariffs. The Premier has faced criticism for interfering in U.S. affairs after producing that anti-tariff TV ad. And the U.S. president claims Prime Minister Mark Carney apologized to him for the Ford government's ad that resulted in the trade talks being terminated. Let's go to Colleen Christie now for more on that and the rest of today's news. Colleen.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, the U.S. president made the comment on board Air Force One while returning from the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit.
And I think we have a very good relationship personally. I think that what they did was wrong, but he apologized.
The ad, which has been pulled from air in the U.S., used portions of a speech by former U.S. President Ronald Reagan warning against broad use of tariffs. Trump says negotiations between Canada and the U.S. are not resuming. The Prime Minister says there has been a turning point in relations with China. Carney met with President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC Summit in South Korea. It's the first time in nearly 10 years leaders from the two countries have sat down together. Mackenzie Gray reports on the tone it sets for a path forward.
It's a meeting 8 years in the making. The Canadian Prime Minister and Chinese President Xi Jinping sitting down for the first time since 2017.
Distance is not the way to solve problems, not the way to serve our people.
That's what Xi said too, promising a healthy, stable, and sustainable correct track for Canada-China relations at an early date by extending another olive branch.
I also welcome the invitation to come to China to further the dialogue, and I very much look forward to doing so.
But outside of that invitation, there was no resolution on Chinese canola tariffs or Canadian electric vehicle tariffs. A readout from the Prime Minister's office saying both sides directed their officials to quickly resolve outstanding trade issues and irritants. Despite getting nothing concrete from Xi, Carney viewed the meeting as an important first step.
This meeting today is long overdue.
While senior government officials had been downplaying the possibility of any tariff deal,
Mr. President,
it's in contrast to Thursday's Xi-Donald Trump meeting, where tariffs were cut and business deals were struck.
I think all the right signals are being sent. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done.
In Canada, we believe in free and open and frank dialogue. And
public fights over foreign interference in Canadian elections, the two Michaels affair, the execution of 4 Canadian citizens by China, and Parliament calling Chinese treatment of the Uyghurs a genocide put relations into a deep freeze.
Whatever concerns we had with them on national security and economic security grounds still stand. What has changed is that there's now a bit more political space because of what's happening with the U.S.
Those concerns seem to be water under the bridge for Carney. The PMO readout containing no mention of foreign interference or human rights issues.
We shouldn't shy away to mention about what is going on for Uyghurs, Tibetans, and Hong Kongers. It gives the impression to other side of the table that we are desperate.
The meeting, which lasted roughly 30 minutes, was labeled as a turning point by the Prime Minister's office, Colleen, and Mark Carney will hope Canadian businesses turn to China as a way to diversify the Canadian economy from the U.S.
Mackenzie Gray in South Korea. Thanks, Mackenzie. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is calling the meeting a positive step towards ending the trade dispute over Canadian canola.
Obviously, we would hope for, a removal of all the tariffs that are in place after this meeting. However, the first meeting in 8 years, I don't know that would be a realistic expectation. The fact that there is a plan to engage again at the Prime Minister President level, positive.
Moe says he's hopeful the talks will eventually lead to China lifting its tariffs and that Canada can strengthen ties with the U.S. and India as well. The FBI says it has stopped what it describes as a potential terror plot in Michigan. FBI Director Kash Patel says federal officials arrested several people in Dearborn this morning who had allegedly been plotting a violent attack over the Halloween weekend. Patel announced the arrests in a social media post. He didn't release further information, but said more would be coming. Local police have assured residents there is no threat to the public. Air travelers in and to the U.S. are facing another day of major delays as the government shutdown reaches the 1-month mark. Air traffic controllers and security agents have been working without pay, and some can simply no longer afford to show up to work. And as Jackson Proskow reports, those staffing shortages are only expected to get worse.
The delays and cancellations keep adding up.
A lot of flights happen to be delayed, and it's not just a little bit, it's an hour and a half.
Thursday, Orlando International Airport was nearly forced to close its runways due to a lack of air traffic controllers. While in New York, Los Angeles, and the U.S. Capitol, staffing shortages have caused heavy delays. It's only going to get worse.
Our traffic will be snarled, right? It'll be a disaster in aviation.
Since the U.S. government shut down 1 month ago, government workers, including air traffic controllers and security agents, have had to stay on the job, but they're not getting paid.
We're a professional bunch, and we're all showing up to work every day for no pay.
There's no sign the shutdown will end soon, with Republicans and Democrats hopelessly deadlocked over spending priorities.
The Democrats just don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's wrong with them.
We'll sit down with Republicans anytime, any place, anywhere, in order to reopen the government.
The longer it drags on, the more essential workers are likely to call out sick, adding to staffing shortages. Some airports have opened on-site food banks as concerns grow about safety impacts.
We don't want to introduce a distraction into an air traffic controller when they're plugging in and looking at the runways, and in the back of their head they're like, I just ran out of money. I have $0 in my bank account.
The pressure is only going to build ahead of the American Thanksgiving season, the busiest travel time of the year. The holiday plans of millions now rest in the hands of workers whose own livelihoods have been grounded by political dysfunction. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
The Supreme Court of Canada says 1-year mandatory minimum jail sentences for accessing or possessing child pornography are unconstitutional. In today's ruling, the top court said the mandatory minimum removes a judge's discretion to impose sentences other than imprisonment when appropriate. It came about from the cases of 2 men who had pleaded guilty to such offenses. Crown pushed the ruling to the Supreme Court, arguing sentences imposed must reflect the nature of the crime and harms caused to victims, families, and society. The conflict in Ukraine rages on. Coming up, the aid Canada is promising to help the war-torn country rebuild its infrastructure. Heavy Russian strikes on Ukraine overnight sent about a dozen people to hospital, including 4 children. Renewed attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure was the focus of a G7 conference in Toronto today. And as Nathaniel Dove reports, Canada is expediting its support.
More attacks on Ukraine, part of Russia's constant bombardment, striking civilians, and Ukrainians' ability to stay warm ahead of the cold winter.
They want to put Ukraine in the dark, they want to freeze Ukrainian, and they want to create the humanitarian crisis.
It's part of the focus at a G7 ministers summit in Toronto.
Those who enable Russia's war will face consequences, and Ukraine will not be left to rebuild alone.
Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand promising Canada will speed up delivery of $10 million to help Ukraine rebuild its natural gas infrastructure, and to find a way to legally give a seized Russian plane to Ukraine. A member of Donald Trump's cabinet also making a major promise.
We can tomorrow displace all the remaining Russian natural gas that comes into Europe. America's ready and willing to supply that today.
That would economically hamper the Kremlin's war effort. The U.S. Energy Secretary says the only question is how quickly the states can help, though Trump's support for Kyiv has been inconsistent.
Critical minerals are not just an economic opportunity, they are a strategic necessity.
The G7's own energy security and critical mineral supply chain, the other focus of the summit. Canada announced up to $14 million to help a Canadian company working with Ukraine develop graphite from Quebec, which is used in batteries, aerospace, and defense.
You have to genuinely partner with the private sector and to rely on them, who have much more money than the governments.
Energy and Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson closed the conference by announcing Canada had signed nearly 30 critical mineral deals with 9 countries, and by saying the country will begin stockpiling some critical minerals to hold or release into the market to create price stability. Colleen?
Nathaniel Dove in Toronto. Thanks, Nate. Ahead, the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean and the remnants felt in this country. In New York, record-setting rain has triggered deadly flash flooding. At least 2 people died when water swamped their basements yesterday. The storm hit fast. Up to 7 centimeters of rain fell in just 20 minutes, breaking 3 daily rainfall records. Vehicles were crushed by fallen trees, and there were widespread power outages. Communities across the Caribbean are dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. In Jamaica, where Melissa hit with record force on Tuesday, at least 19 deaths have been confirmed. Relief efforts are slow in the hardest hit regions where homes and infrastructure have been wiped out. Power has also been cut off across much of the country. In Haiti, Melissa triggered flash flooding and landslides. At least 30 people are believed to have been killed, and many others remain missing. Hurricane Melissa also caused significant damage across Cuba and other Caribbean nations. Strong winds and heavy rains are lashing parts of the Maritimes as the remnants of Hurricane Melissa approach. The system is also dumping rain on southern Quebec and southern Ontario. It'll be a soggy Halloween for many kids across Canada. There are also rain and wind warnings in effect for parts of BC.
All aboard the bandwagon. Up next, a look at how the Jays have created millions of new fans. We're back from Toronto in just a moment. Welcome back to Toronto. With the Blue Jays just 1 win away from a World Series title, Canadians are tuning in record numbers. From diehard fans to total newcomers, people across this country are jumping on the bandwagon. 7.2 million Canadians tuned in for Wednesday's Game 5 victory, a new record for the most watched Blue Jays game, according to Sportsnet. And that mark is almost certain to be broken tonight. The University of Toronto hosted a Blue Jays watch party this week with a twist. Many of these fans are new to baseball. Wednesday's game was the first time Joanna Dong ever watched the sport on TV.
Gonna be honest, I'm jumping the bandwagon a little bit because this is all anyone's talking about these days.
Her friend Isaac Yan explained the rules and pitching styles. He's a lifelong Seattle Mariners fan from Vancouver, but Yan is now switching allegiances.
I have friends and family on the West Coast getting so excited about it. I'm like, that's great.
Last season, the Blue Jays averaged around 600,000 Canadian TV viewers, but during these playoffs, they've been averaging more than 6 million, suggesting a lot of Canadians, even those of us who are usually hockey fans, are hopping aboard the baseball bandwagon. Across the country, Canadians have turned blue. The Rogers Centre Stadium, which was typically half full last season, has been sold out for away games this week. And Leafs fans have stuck around post-game to watch the Jays on the big screen.
The city's on fire.
This Torontonian has been playfully trolling bandwagoners online.
Try me, let's go.
His posts went viral after he created an online alter ego for himself, pretending to be a bandwagon fan. This alter ego of yours has been a fan for a long time?
He's been a fan since '94, '95 when we won the World Cup with John Carter and Roberto Alamo.
But this psychologist says a bandwagon's power is no joke.
If we have a common issue that we're collectively fighting against, it pulls us together.
He points to the Four Nations hockey tournament amid the 51st state talk, when elbows up became a national rallying cry.
Probably one of the best things that could happen to us right now is to hop on a bandwagon that's fun at its core, but carries a deeper meaning. It is focusing us on, we can come together on things.
And that is Global National for this Friday. I'm Jeff Semple. A lot of Canadians are multitasking tonight between watching baseball and trick-or-treating. Tonight's Your Canada is this Grim Reaper in Edmonton, a skeleton taking a dip in Lakefield, Ontario, and a flag made of pumpkins in Surrey, BC. Thanks for watching. Happy Halloween, and go Jays.